Hello, Gold participants from around the world. I'm Fleur Bickford, Program Director and MC for Gold Learning. I'm chatting today with Zainab Yate about her upcoming presentation for Gold Lactation 2017 titled Breastfeeding/Nursing Aversion and Agitation in Breastfeeding Mothers. So, Zainab, thank you so much for being with us today.
Hi, thank you.
Hi. So, very excited to have you with us. I love your topic. This is something that I know there really isn't a lot of research on, and I'm really excited to hear more about what you have to say. Before we get to your topic, though, perhaps you can tell our delegates a little bit about yourself and why this topic is important to you.
Well, I had my first child a couple of years ago now, so around 3.5, 4 years ago, and I experienced what is now known as nursing aversion and agitation almost from a couple of months old, when he was a couple of months old, and I wasn't really sure what it was, and I didn't actually tell anybody because I couldn't find any information on it. And I basically went from there. I did my own research to find out about what was going on, and I started volunteering in infant feeding settings and as a breastfeeding peer supporter to help women, because breastfeeding was quite challenging for me, and that's really where I am today with my work on aversion, because my academic background is in ethics, really, biomedical ethics and research ethics, and my working background is in public health, so it's not really to do with infant feeding, although my whole life is now mostly to do with breastfeeding and infant feeding and helping mothers to reach their breastfeeding goals, so it's just become everything to me now. Yeah.
Okay, thank you. So, it's interesting to me to hear you say that you really didn't tell anyone about what you were experiencing. And I imagine that's probably true of a lot of women especially when you can't find any information about it and you kind of start feeling like, oh, it must just be me, I'm the only one. Do you find that, like with the mothers that you've been working with, do you find that a lot of them are kind of afraid to say something about it?
Oh, yeah, definitely. I think probably 1 out of 3, probably 2 out of 3 posts or messages I get start with, "Oh my God, I'm so glad that I've found a group, or
Mhm.
I've found this information. So I didn't actually know it was a thing." And it's very similar. It's always that kind of wording. It's always like, "Oh, I'm so relieved," or "I didn't know that this existed, and I've been struggling for months, sometimes years." So it's so common. I mean, it's just very, very frequent that I hear that from mothers. It's sad. I think
Mhm.
it's very difficult because now I'm sitting in the position of helping mothers breastfeeding and trying to support them, and I work on the planning team for the World Breastfeeding Trends Initiative, and the main push is to support women breastfeeding, and it's very difficult sitting in those positions to portray breastfeeding. It's very challenging because it's not true for everyone, and I think that's just generally what's out there now, that breastfeeding is very not easy, but full of love and has this
Mhm.
main bond, and it's everything you see, happy smiling mothers and babies, and breastfeeding's amazing, and it completely is, but part of it is also that it's very, very difficult, and it's hard to get that across, really, I think, as a professional and as an individual, so it seems to be somewhat looked over.
Yeah, absolutely. And I imagine you probably find, like with the moms that you're talking to and providing support to, that when you have that image out there, unfortunately you end up with a lot of moms who are feeling like they're failing because they don't feel that way. They're struggling and they're not having all of those, warm fuzzy feelings about it, and they feel like they're doing something wrong. Do you find that?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. From my own experience, I definitely felt that, and as I help mothers, they will often have those kind of feelings of failure.
Mm.
But I think the more I do work into it and the more I will research it into the future, I'm hoping to portray that it's very normal. Actually, it's part of the human condition. It's part of our human biological makeup. It also may be just part of the natural world that you have some experience of aversion in general to wean, because you can see it in the animal kingdom where there's some similar kind of aggressive tendencies.
Mhm.
But the difficulty is with humans that you have your rational capacity that comes in that overrides it. So that's
Right.
where we have to find out more about what these women want to do and try and support them to override any feelings that they may be getting of a biological nature. So
Okay, so interesting. Thank you. Now, perhaps you can just tell us a little bit, just briefly, tell our delegates kind of the things that you plan on touching on in your presentation and what you hope the delegates will be able to take away from your presentation and back to their own practices.
I'll be covering the most kind of commonly reported emotions, I guess, the most common phrases, the most common feelings that aversion tends to bring up, and some of the self-reported reasons why. So it would be from a very qualitative approach in terms of a mother's own subjective experience and her feelings. And in that sense, I think everyone can relate, because as a clinician, you can immediately see that with your patient, and you have to sift through their emotions and their what they present as symptoms every day in your work. So if you're able to get to grasp with some of these, then you might find women that come to you or present that actually are experiencing aversion and don't know it. So I think that's key, because if they don't know it in the sense that other women experience it, and there's actually some work on it, and there's actually some things that they can do to help lessen it, that it's difficult for them to find help or treatment in that sense.
Mhm.
So as a clinician, it would be empowering you to be able to identify it, essentially, and just to be able to talk to the breastfeeding women about it. That's what I hope
Okay,
you can take away. Yeah.
that's wonderful. Thank you so much. We appreciate you taking the time to chat with us today. For our delegates who are listening, you will be able to hear more from Zainab on her during her presentation for Gold Lactation 2017, which is titled Breastfeeding / Nursing Aversion and Agitation. So thank you so much everyone for joining, and we look forward to seeing you during the conference. Bye for now.